Hi there, welcome to Synctory. This is a web tool for making multi-threaded narratives. So essentially what I'm calling multi-threaded narrative is where more than one thing is happening at once and the user, or rather the viewer or the audience, has some sort of agency in what they experience. So let's just dive right in here by making a new name, which is a big pool, given a password, sign up. And let's just create a new script. I'm going to make a little pastiche here of Romeo and Juliet. And then we get the main overview of the script. At the moment it's completely empty, so let's start filling it out with stuff. So this column here is a location. At the moment it says click to rename, so let's do that. Let's do interior of Juliet's bedroom. Here we go, confirm that. And now in here, this white box here is something called a unit, and we're going to want to put all of our juicy words in there. So let's just go Juliet is playing chess, right? So Juliet is playing chess in her bedroom. That's great. So let's do Romeo. Let's give him a place. New location over here. Let's do the same thing. Let's do interior of Romeo's bedroom. Let's be very original here. And so let's just say Romeo is hanging out with, okay, wait, I should write this down, is hanging out with Dave. There we go. And, okay, so if a column is a place, the row is a moment in time, and there's something called steps. So every step has a set number of units in it, and all of this is happening at the same time. So let's just say Dave wants to leave now. Dave says, I'm off. And then Dave leaves. Notice as well how I'm using caps, just like you would in a screenplay for the characters. So suppose Dave leaves, and now I want a new place for him to leave too. So let's just add new location. Let's do exterior pools. It's a sunny day. So now Dave is going to go to the pool. So to make a new unit, I'm going to click on this blank unit here. It makes it alive. So let's put him by the pool now. Let's put out walks Dave. Well, you see what happened there is it turned inverse, didn't it? And this means there's a conflict essentially. So what we have here, if this step here is one moment in time, we have one guy, Dave, who's in two places at the same time, and that's not right. So what we need to do is remove him out of here, and we want him to be in the pool after this happens. So we're going to put him in the next step, step 2. So we're going to click on this to make a new unit here, and now we're going to put out walks Dave, and then Dave likes what he sees, so he goes perfect. Okay, that's great. So now we've got a good sense of how things are flowing here. So this is one moment in time, and then the next moment in time, Dave is sat by a pool. What are Romeo and Juliet going to do? Maybe they're going to leave as well. So they're going to leave their room. So Juliet's going to leave her bedroom. Romeo's going to leave his bedroom. And let's just say they meet in a courtyard, exterior courtyard. Okay, and so of course they're not going to meet up here because they're in their bedrooms at this point. So they're going to meet here. So let's just say Romeo and Juliet enter. And then Juliet just says something like hi or something like that. Or let's just say Romeo gives Juliet, there's a bit of action for you, action is character, an apple. And then Juliet says, this is the most romantic thing you've ever done. We don't know about the relationship at this point. So at the moment, it looks like this is a very straightforward story. But now let's just have a little a knock on the iceberg of what you can do with having multi-threaded narratives rather than just a parallel or traditional linear narratives. Let's say that this Dave is a bit of a nuisance, and here, take this poisoned apple. Okay, so it's the poisoned apple, right? So now, when Romeo gives Juliet the apple, he's actually giving her, like a poisoned apple, which is terrible. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this to be a capital APPLE, because what that does is this makes it something called an entity. In the same way that Romeo and Juliet and Dave, they can only be in one place at one time. We want this apple, because it's quite important, it's a poisoned apple. We want it only to ever be in one place at one time. So we're going to make it capital, and that makes it an entity. And so what have we got here? Essentially, with this sort of a multi-threaded narrative, you would have an audience which can only see one thing at one time. So you could have an audience member which just sees Juliet playing chess, and then sees Romeo give Juliet an apple. And they're going to have a very different idea of what's going on to someone who watched Romeo get handed a poisoned apple and then give it to Juliet. Equally, you'll have a very different idea if you just watch a pool for the whole time. But that's the idea of giving the viewer agency, so that they get to decide what they see, decide what they make of what they see. And there's all sorts of elements of perspective and social dimensions which can come from this. I think it's a deep, untapped well. So what can we do once we've actually made this? Well, we need to print it out. So suppose we were making a play. Usually you would just have one script for everyone, but that's not going to work here because it's just going to be too confusing with people coming and going. So what we'd really need is we'd want to give every actor an individual script with just their scenes on it, so they know when they're moving to a different place. So if we go to print script up here, we can do that by clicking on by entity. Remember, an entity is any unique object which is in caps in the script. So that could be a character, it could be an object or anything. So here our entities are the apple, the poisoned apple, Dave, Juliet and Romeo. So let's just say I click on Romeo. I get this script pop up here. By Big Paul, that's not me, I don't know why I wrote that. And here we have, it's a very short scene, so we just have him in his bedroom, he takes the apple, Dave leaves, and then we should have Romeo leaving here as well, then exit courtyard, then Romeo and Juliet enter, and then he gives her the apple. Yeah. So this is just all of Romeo's scenes back to back. And we can do the same thing with all the other characters, of course, and also location. So let's just click on courtyard. Because there's only one scene in a courtyard, this is going to be very, very short, but you can see it says focus on the courtyard here. And yeah, it's just this one scene right here. Now notice that we have steps are written in square brackets here, and this is where it gets quite important to name your steps. You can name them by just clicking on them and then changing it. So this is the start, obviously. So we can name it like that. But you can also do stuff like timestamps. Suppose I timed it all out, I read it through and I timed everything. I could say this is like 3 minutes and 15 seconds. And so at that point, we know that when it reaches this time, Dave must be at the pool and Romeo and Juliet must have entered the courtyard. So it's a way of, it's like a time landmark. It's a way of keeping everything synced together. Okay, so just do a few quick things about the controls here that I'll just blast through. This one on the top right is delete the unit. Remember, to create a unit, you just click on an empty space. This one here can make it extend for more than one step. So if there's, for instance, not much happening here, but a lot happening here, like I've got these 2 steps, I might want it to last both these times. Equally, I can make it less as well. Also, sometimes you want to insert a step, right? So I suppose I want this now to be 2 steps so I can get more action in here while the same stuff happens here. I can click on this divide sign up here, and that'll just make 2 new units with a new step in here, while this one just still lasts the same amount of time. Okay, so that's a very quick introduction to this. Thank you very much.